Hey everyone, welcome to PunkCast. My name is William Maxwell. I'm a student of Web3 and the owner of Punk9181. CryptoPunks are 10,000 uniquely generated characters stored permanently on the Ethereum blockchain. No punk is the same. This is a show dedicated to celebrating the punks behind the punk. My hope for this podcast is that we capture the essence of the punk culture, elevate the brand and the individual behind the punk. One last thing. Projects discussed on the show is not financial advice. Crypto and NFTs are a volatile and risky asset class. Please always do your own research. Other than that, let's go. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of PunkCast. Today we're back with Punk7181. He's got 3 Atties, a chin strap, regular shades, and stringy hair. In real life though, he is an experienced Silicon Valley entrepreneur, having worked previously at DoorDash and currently founding his own business, SnagSolutions, a marketplace built for creators. Please welcome CryptoZach to the show. Zach, how are you, man?
Thanks, Max. Excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, yeah, nice to sort of have you on, man. And it looks like you're sort of building quite a bit in this space. But I think before we sort of get into the meat and potatoes, why don't you tell us about yourself? Like, what's your sort of background, man? What'd you grow up and study and all that?
Absolutely. So I joke I'm a football nerd, played small school football here in the States, and then was really not super academically minded, but jumped luckily into DoorDash right out of school, and was able to start there launching new markets and kind of grew up with the business, launching markets, then starting new businesses, and then was eventually leading our white label business a few years ago when I red pilled into Web3 and NFTs, and saw a pretty obvious opportunity to apply the same kind of business strategy that we were building against there, helping businesses run their own pickup and delivery channel to helping creators run their own sales channel, kind of a Shopify for Web3 and NFTs.
Oh, nice. Well, maybe let's unpack a little bit of that stuff. So football, like how far did you get with that?
I played through senior year of college. Super small school. We cared much more about what we were doing than anyone else did, but took it as far as I could. And if not for a few concussions, may have gotten and played a little semi-pro afterwards. But it was an appropriate ending point.
Cool. And where did you grow up? Which part of the US?
Grew up in Baltimore a little bit until I was about 10. Diehard Baltimore Ravens fan ahead of our championship game this weekend. And then moved to the Bay Area around then, and mostly there since. Just moved to Austin actually recently though.
Ah, nice. And what did you study at college? Like, what did you kick off?
Economics.
Was there a reason why you sort of picked economics and business? How did you sort of find your way into that sort of path?
So business was always came really naturally to me. I actually started a sports blog that was a part of the Vox Media network all the way back in middle school, blogging about the Baltimore Ravens, which I just brought up. So always kind of gravitated towards business problems, entrepreneurship, did a couple other small things growing up. But economics was, I'm normally not quite this transparent, but really around the easiest degree to do while playing football in college. And most schools have one or two of those that most of the guys gravitate towards. So somewhat checking a box. And, I've really found myself, though, in the technology sphere since.
Good. And talk to us a little bit about DoorDash, because I think that was a pretty big startup coming out of Silicon Valley back in the day. But, maybe from Australia, I don't think, did DoorDash go global? Did they go to Australia as well?
Yeah, so they're in Australia, haven't figured out how to win there, but they also acquired Volt, which is in, 20, 30 countries, so doing their best overseas.
So could you remind us exactly what DoorDash actually is? I think it was...
I think Uber Eats is the most global example of this, although DoorDash is something like a 66% category share leader in the US, doing food delivery, grocery delivery, other third-party logistics, mostly through their app and website. But as I mentioned earlier, I also worked for the white label business, helping to facilitate delivery through merchant-owned digital channels, kind of white labeling the platform back out to brands.
Gotcha. It was last mile delivery, was it?
Yeah, last mile delivery, food delivery at its core, but then building adjacent services around that.
Gotcha. And so how did you get into DoorDash? Like, and what was that sort of experience? What was your sort of role there?
Yeah, so I applied for inside sales role out of college and got very lucky during the interview process. The head of sales, asked me some more introspective questions and took a liking to my answers and actually moved me into a launch role through the interview process, which was full time travel, getting new markets started. And so I traveled for the first year out of college, launching Nashville, doing kind of regional expansions in Los Angeles and Chicago, and then eventually launching Miami and all of South Florida from there. And so every time I go back to Miami for Art Basel, that's a blast. But from there, kind of gravitated back towards the merchant side of the business, working for that initial kind of head of sales who had hired me, and eventually built our pickup business, our ads and promotions business, which I built with my co-founder at Snag, Jason, and then eventually leading a chunk of that white label business supporting restaurant delivery.
Amazing. And then so you mentioned Snag, and we spoke about SnagSolutions just briefly at the intro. So what was the inspiration around SnagSolutions, and maybe if you can explain exactly, what SnagSolutions actually is.
Yeah. So what we started with was really white labeling the marketplace sales channel. And when we started the business, it was pre the whole royalties realization and debate that they're actually less enforceable on chain. And so the initial thinking in terms of the value prop there was around owning the consumer experience, supporting new customer onboarding, and really reducing fees for customers, because it was 2.5% on OpenSea at the time, and that felt exorbitant. And since things have shifted on royalties, I think the value props are really around having a royalty enforced or royalty incentivized sales channel that you can drive your consumers to, and as things like the Magic Eden marketplace launch, and the narrative on royalties, and various marketplace controls shifts, having invested in that channel gives brands and creators the ability to improve conversion, get closer to their customers, and generally speaking, just having a first party experience is a proven strategy in most e-com channels. So it feels like something that's fairly fundamental. And then from that initial marketplace product, we have marketplaces with Pudgy Penguins and ApeCoin DAO, a kid called Beast, a bunch of kind of awesome creators, and some brands like Rolling Loud. But we're now also working on the loyalty side, kind of helping pull all of the functionality of an ERC20 off chain, so that brands and communities can reward contributions, anything from purchasing and soft staking, royalty payments on chain, to Twitter contributions, retweets, hashtags, etc. off chain. And so really trying to build an operating system and a set of tools for projects that work well.
Mm. So it's almost like loyalty points for these communities that sort of need it, right? And I think I'm not sure if we mentioned, but I think you've built the one for Moonbirds, the Talon sort of marketplace. Can you share a little bit more about that and how that's all going? To be honest, I haven't sort of kept up with what's going on in that space.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's been an awesome partnership for us. And as I described, effectively what Talons are an off-chain ERC20 token. And so holders today accrue anywhere between 15 and 75 points per day per asset held. And they can spend those talons in the talons marketplace for various rewards, experiences, or pieces of art that are put up for auction or sale by the proof team, and in the future the proof community.
Yeah, nice. But when you say off-chain ERC20, like how would I mean, is there a way to value these points at all, or is it just
I,
like
I mean, I think the point is that there's not, to some degree, and to take a step back, the reasons to not launch an on-chain token, there are a few, but the two important ones are, one, regulatory compliance, especially, well, not just in the United States, in many Western, regulatory regimes, token launches are super unclear, and so starting off-chain gives the team a lot more time to get their grips on the legal situation. And then beyond that, ERC20s are, or ecosystem currencies generally really are loyalty tokens. And the purpose of all of these points programs we see popping up, and even, rumored airdrop farming prior to more recent points programs, was to maximize kind of contributions to the growth of the ecosystem and token. And to publish that on chain in a set format with predefined tokenomics is really hard. And we, as a collective kind of crypto ecosystem, are just now learning how to create the right tokenomics. And so by keeping things off chain, the brand has a lot more opportunity to test and learn and adjust those kind of formulas, point earning allocations, et cetera, to make sure that they are incentivizing the right behaviors and building towards the right sinks for the token. And all of this is done somewhat with an eye towards the ability to bring this point system on chain in the future.
gotcha? And that's exciting stuff. So I need to try and use some of my talents. I'm sure I'm racking up a lot of
There's
points.
some cool stuff up there worth checking out. Yeah.
What's your favorite piece on there? Is there anything that you're eyeing off?
So I mean, there's been, cool pieces of art that, like, there was a Opepin, there was some kind of Max Payne. That's what it was up recently. But beyond that, there's some experiences like the BRT Moments Paris experience, and like the access to that mint party. That seems really cool. So yeah.
Okay, so you can actually bid on basically secondary sort of NFTs. So they've actually got a few NFTs that they're giving to the community, which actually has some value as well. Awesome. Um, and so talk to us about your journey into crypto. When did you when did you get into crypto? Like, what was your sort of path in?
Yeah. So I was somewhat, for a while, the innovation guy at DoorDash, and I wasn't the only one, but I was kind of an entrepreneur leading new business units, like I mentioned, pickup, ads and promotions, white label. And I came back from a a trip. I actually got engaged, and I came back, and my boss was quitting. And there was going to be another reorganization, and I kind of looked around at the different entrepreneurial opportunities available at DoorDash, and I felt like they were all wholly uninteresting at that point in time. And the actual realization I was coming to is, within the kind of internet innovation cycles, well, no, sorry, innovation cycles period, internet is just the most recent, we're really towards the tail end of it. And DoorDash and kind of a cohort of businesses from that same era, kind of app enabled logistics, et cetera, were some of the tail end businesses for that cycle. And so I really wanted to get towards new technology, and had a friend at Add-on Cyber, from college, who I played with, who really recruited me to read the Ethereum white paper and start digging in. And once I got far enough down that rabbit hole, I got hooked pretty quickly.
So when was that, Zach?
That was summer of 21, like everyone else. So well, like the more recent everyone else.
In COVID, and then right, and what was your first NFT? Do you remember?
I'm sure there was something before this. Oh yeah, like there's a non-fungible bones like zero point zero 0.01 ETH NFT I bought before this, but my Bored Ape was actually close to my first NFT. Like within weeks of jumping in, I jumped pretty far in. And they were already pretty run up at price at the time. But what I really wanted was a CryptoPunk, and I couldn't yet. I wasn't deep enough to like rationalize that to myself. And so I started with the ape at about half the price point.
Nice. What was the price of punks around that time?
It was roughly like 32 to 64 apes to punks at the time. Um,
Gotcha. And then talk to us a little bit about your sort of journey into punks. Like, when did you first start hearing about them, and what sort of drove, I guess, your need to have a punk?
yeah, so in back, before I bought the ape in 2021, a bunch of my college buddies and I, we were all, investigating crypto, trying to spend time in Discord, learning about the space together, and just hanging out. And we all agreed that punks were, the OG NFT, what we all wanted, etc. And just kind of coalescing on that as a friend group has some staying power. So stuck with me. And 9-ish months later, when ApeCoin dropped and I had enough fungible currency in my wallet to afford a punk, it just felt like a no-brainer. So picked one up then.
Nice. And yeah, the apecorn drop was super crazy. Made a lot of apes happy back then. Um, so 7181, stringy hair, chin strap, regular shades. Talk to us about your buying journey or purchase journey with this guy. Like, how are you thinking about traits? Were there sort of other traits you were looking at in particular, or this guy just sort of spoke to you?
I was looking. I was trying to go no more than 20-ish% above the floor. Like, had some appetite to find the right long-term punk, and I truly do plan to never sell this. But I mean, for those watching this on video, it looks at least somewhat like me. So that was a huge piece of the purchasing process. And I'm balding a little bit, so that stringy hair, is hedging out in front, right? And then I don't know, some cool trades, sunglasses, etc. The funny thing is, one of my favorite punks, at the time and still is Chris Cantino. And after I bought it, I posted something, and he responded, and they're the same punk, but his has an earring. So maybe I was gravitating towards that subconsciously.
Gotcha. How funny. The stringy hair, like, I mean, it's a funny trait. I think, um, like it's grown on me, right? I think when I was looking at traits when I was browsing punks for the first time, I thought they were like probably one of the ugliest sort of traits. But I think they've sort of grown on me. It's just like you've come out of the rain, and it's just like sitting on your forehead. Um, and the chin strap, though, chin strap's interesting because, like, um, if you didn't really look into the traits and see that as a chin strap, it looks like almost like a beard, right? But yeah, I mean, like, have you ever thought what a chin strap actually is? Like, would you walk around with a chin strap? Like, it's kind of
I
a weird
mean,
trait.
yeah. So it doesn't look like a chin strap. I agree there. And then, embarrassingly enough, I definitely rocked a chin strap in high school for too many years until I could, fill things out. So again, I just felt like some personal resonance across the board here. Um, so yeah.
Providence, Providence. And if money wasn't an issue for you, what do you think would be your dream punk?
I mean, super generic, but a hoodie punk. I mean, and I'm staying away from like an alien punk or something like that, so that's good. Yeah, the punk 665
It's 2-9.
5 to 29. Oh God, is the goat. In my book, not just of punks, but of like crypto voices and thinkers. Period. And all of the other great hoodie punks out there. So would love to be part of that cohort.
Yeah, I think the hoodies have got their own sort of mini mafia in sort of the punks, right? I mean, you got DC Investor, D's. There's a whole bunch of these really well known hoodie punks. So yeah, really highly sought after. And if you were to look across, I guess the punk community, do you have like any favorite punks that stick out to you?
Uh, you just snagged two of mine in 6529 and DC Investor. Have a lot of respect for Farouk. I've gotten a chance to work with him a little bit. Um, and then I mentioned Chris Cantino already. I would go with those for the
Or
moment.
yeah, nice, nice. And how would you describe punk culture for you?
Punk culture. OG, distinct.
Nice. And do you have a view on V1 punks?
I I don't have a lot of like vitriol or like energy around disliking them. It almost feels to me like a derivative and like a better derivative in some sense. I know it's a heated topic, so hope that's not stepping on any toes.
No, not at all. I think that's always a good place to start with, without disdain. Um, and you were an ape before becoming a punk. So it'd be an interesting sort of question to ask you actually around, how did you feel about, I guess, the Yuga acquisition of punks at the time?
At the time, I was probably slightly more excited about it than I am now. And that's in no way to say that I'm think they've done a bad job with it. I actually think they've overall done a really nice job with it, kind of keeping their hands off in appropriate ways and elevating the art in others. I think Stone has been awesome. But I also haven't really seen any benefit to, like, in my head, it's not like I would have put my finger on it, but I would have thought it would have been somehow more like net accretive to punks. And it just feels like more of a nothing burger, which isn't bad. Yeah.
Yeah. And nothing burger is probably a good thing for punks, in some
Yeah.
ways, right? And I think it's just have to learn. And when did you change your I guess your profile picture from a punk from an ape to a punk?
Maybe 3 months ago, 4 months ago. And I think that's, shortly after I reached out to you, because as I mentioned prior to the call, I feel like I almost did a bad job of joining the punks community. I want to
Yeah, gotcha.
meet more punks.
You need to. And and you, I mean, like, and changing your profile picture to a punk. I mean, it's a bit of a signal, but like, what is it? What is a sort of signal for you? Because it's an identity play. You're building a bit of a brand behind, I guess, your Web3 identity, right? In some ways.
Yeah. I think, you know, tactically, I sell into both, top Web3 creators and brands and Web3 games that are, a little bit adjacent, but, um, you know, the punk is across all of those audiences, completely non-polarizing. It's hard to find folks who are already actively playing and experimenting in Web3 who don't have respect for the punk's kind of provenance and place in NFT history. And so to me, it's definitely about that. But then it's also such a long term brand. To your point, that it's it's a little painful changing your PFP after having one for a year plus, probably 2 years, and I don't plan to change this one. Again, probably close
Yeah,
to ever.
yeah, nice one. And NFTs, like, what do you collect? What do you sort of like collecting in the space?
The other NFT I'm super proud to own is a Chromie Squiggle. And I picked that up around the same time where I felt like I was trying to get, a couple of pieces that I wanted to hold on to, hopefully forever. But just due to my job and both not having a ton of a salary as an entrepreneur, plus wanting to support a bunch of these great partner communities that we're working with, I really collect, assets from the communities we work with. And I try to participate actively in as many of those as I can. And sometimes, as was the case of Pudgy Penguins, they make me more money for having participated in them than maybe we were making from them as a business today. Doesn't always work out quite that well, but have actually found that investing in folks who are really thinking about their core product and experience and actively responding to Twitter DMs, et cetera, tends to correlate with solid project leaders.
Man, Pudgies are crazy. What are they? The floor's like 18 ETH now.
Nuts.
What's going on behind that? To be honest with you, I sort of haven't been keeping up with Pudgies. Like, what's been the big catalyst behind the run up?
So I have no idea on the actual run up, like who knows what drives any of this stuff, right? And I would say the collecting experience on the physicals and the way that the QR code scan ties to the Pudgy World metaverse and the trait creation, etc. When I was buying a couple $100s of Pudgy toys to kind of play around with it and support the team, uh, I was just addicted to the collecting experience such that I actually went back and bought another $100 of Pudgy toys. And so I think they're really on to something. And if you talk about, hey, their comps are like Club Penguin or Neopets or Maple Story, something like that, but with more of this physical collecting component. So a little bit of Beanie Babies in there too. If you think about where they are today with what they've already built and validated versus what's left to go build and validate, really on like the gameplay and metaverse side for them to get to a few $billion market cap business, it feels pretty obvious to me. So I have no idea how any of these things relate to JPEG floor price at the end of the day. But
Is there have they announced a token? Are they doing a token? Do you know?
I have no inside baseball on that, but no, it's not announced.
Yeah. Okay. Super interesting. 18 ETH,
I'm
man.
sure there's some. I know there's some level of speculation around that. But I also think there's an element, if I'm just kind of taking a step back and am speculating on the market, there's an element on, that floor price starting to coincide with Bored Ape floor price. And I think there is a lot of churn from one community to the other right now. I definitely see that participating in and following both of them.
Yeah. So what's the bet? Do you think they're going to flip apes? What are apes now? Actually, they're sort of
25, 26.
wow. Ouch.
Yeah, I mean, it would be shocking if at this point there wasn't a day in 2024 where they invert, right? Whether they sustain inverting apes on price. I have no clue. It's really all up to other side to some degree. It sounds like that, truly should be 2024 at this point. And if it's not, then Pudgy Penguins will definitely flip apes this year. But all on the execution there.
Wow. Well, they're not too far off. I mean, from 18 ETH, it's like 7 ETH difference from a Pudgy to a Bored Ape. It feels like there's a bit more upside on Pudgies than apes at the moment. I'm not sure what apes are left. I think they've done everything right. This other side, but I'm not sure there's any additional value that accrues to punks on the back end. Interesting. Yeah. So maybe the other question too is I think you sort of mentioned you were doing some work with Rug Radio. Like, so what stuff are you doing with Farouk and Rug Radio there?
For them, really appreciate them as a partner, but it's a pretty basic implementation for us just in terms of a marketplace. It's marketplace.rug.fm, and it's all of their collections hosted together. It's branded with their kind of brand fonts, logos, etc. and then critically, it includes their rug ERC20 token as a purchasing token, letting them release rewards to their community in rug. So it's a bit of a hug to their ecosystem, but pretty similar to the rest of our core marketplace partner base.
Gotcha. Feels like everyone's dropping tokens these days. It's like, airdrops for the season, like blockchains, projects, just incentivizing everybody with tokens.
Meme coin, man. Meme coin fallout. They just proved it could be done.
Are you getting into the meme coin action?
I missed it, and I try not to chase things. I've done enough of that. You?
I have been, but I haven't been doing the best at it. I think the Punk's Alpha group dropped. A shout out to Quinton. He's the one that sort of dropped it in there, but he dropped whiff at like dog whiff hat on the Solana chain at around 4 or 5 million market cap. And basically I sold that at about 15 million, got like a lazy 2x, 3x off it. And I think last time I checked, it was like 400 million. So
sold too quick.
paper handed it. So, but also at the same time, I'm talking about the wins. I haven't spoken about my losses. There's a lot that have just gone to zero as well. But it's a bit of a stressful place to play, but it's fun at the same time. Well, Zach, this has sort of been a fun conversation, man. I guess if there was a message you can pass on to the next owner of your Punk 7181, what would you like to say to them?
It's tough because it should be so long from now that the world shouldn't exist as it does today, but that decentralization still matters, and that if they're not already living in a world where that's widely the case, in terms of money systems, etc., they should keep working on that.
Nice one, man. And thanks again for joining on PunkCast, man. It was lovely to sort of finally connect and meet, and wish you all the well with SnagSolutions. They'll be rooting on the sidelines for you, and also for talent to actually kick off when token. But any sort of final closing comments on your side, and what's the best way for people to find you?
Yeah, really appreciate you having me on today. It's been a blast chatting, and as I mentioned on here, to meet more punks, so you can find me at CryptoZach on Twitter, spelled ZACH the right way, and DMs are always open, also in the Punk's Telegram channel, so looking forward to hanging out.
Awesome. Guys, that wraps up an episode of PunkCast for the week, and we'll be back next week with another Punk. Bye for now.